it's a major project for this region. It's probably arguably the worst section of interstate that we've had.
Well, Erin, first of all, I'm wondering if you can start kind of generally here. We've got this project on I-20 near Shreveport. Can you kind of describe what's being done to the highway in that area?
So we have a project that includes a major rehabilitation portion, as well as concrete panel replacement and repair. And the major rehabilitation portion of the project is taking place in Bossier City, which is across the Red River from Shreveport. Between Hamilton Road and Industrial, we are completely removing the existing pavement base, everything that's there, original, and replacing with new. That's never been done on this section of interstate. It's never seen a rehab, never seen a project of this scope and size for that section of roadway. And so, it's a major project for this region. It's probably arguably the worst section of interstate that we've had. Numerous, people have contacted us over the years and requested that we do something about this section of interstate. So that's what's going on with that, along with the rehab section. Like I mentioned, we have concrete panel repair and replacement on pre-identified sections, smaller sections to the east and west of that portion too. So that's in a nutshell what's going on. The contractor has completed the demolition of the inside lanes in the rehab section. So they are moving forward with the replacement of those, replacement of the base. We're not rehabbing any bridges. Those were previously done in another project, but that section of interstate is what is currently being reconstructed.
As I understand it, there's been some concern about large trucks going into this construction area. I want to start with what the rules are. What are the rules regarding large trucks in the scope of this project?
So the project started in September, and we didn't, start out with any type of restrictions other than some, various width restrictions, but 18-wheelers primarily were still able to travel through the work zone in phase one with, little issues. But in phase one, we only had cones and barricades in place, cones and barrels. When we transitioned into phase two and we put the concrete barriers in place, those lanes narrowed down even further to about 9.5 feet wide. And so what we started seeing as we did that were issues primarily in inclement weather. The earth next to the pavement, very soft and saturated. And if one tire left the roadway, of a large truck, then that was basically it. We were seeing a lot of overturned 18-wheelers, a lot of issues with 18-wheelers leaving the roadway. And then because there's only one lane open to traffic, the other lane had been removed. That meant a complete closure of the interstate for as many hours as it took to remove this very large vehicle, which a lot of times it's between 6, 12, even 24 plus hours. So what we did in late December of last year was put into place a prohibition on 18-wheelers traveling through the work zone. It's not something that we really wanted to have to do, but it became clear that for the safety of motorists who were driving through, truckers as well, plus, the safety of our construction crew that's out there, that this really was kind of the most feasible solution to the ongoing issue that we were having. And so we're fortunate in that we have an interchange with our loop, our interstate loop, I-220, just to the east of these project limits. And so, if you're traveling westbound into the project, you're able to take that detour very easily. And really the same on the other end. On the west side of the project is the other end of that half circle loop for I-220 on that end. And, we've gone through the various updates to the signage, utilizing both our digital message boards that are permanent on the interstate, as well as the static signage too. But it's an ongoing effort to inform the trucking community, motorists, everybody involved, that's in place. And so, that's kind of where we stand with the project and with the status of vehicles traveling through the project.
Since you put these restrictions on trucks on the construction zone in place, how frequently are you having trucks enter that zone since then?
They still enter it daily, and I think a lot of people, just general public, really doesn't realize the sheer volume of commercial traffic that utilizes any type of interstate system on a daily basis. We receive a lot of questions about the enforcement efforts, and we still see trucks out there. But it would be virtually impossible to, stop every single 18-wheeler that is driving through, just because there are thousands and thousands that utilize it every single day. A lot are adhering to the signage. And then our law enforcement partners have also committed additional resources to the enforcement arm of this, to pull over the trucks, ask them if they saw the signage, either issue a warning or citation, kind of have that, conversation with them about, why they entered the work zone. Did they not see the signage? Did they not realize it pertained to them? Kind of get some feedback from them as well, so we can improve signage if we need to. A construction project is fluid in itself, especially one on a section of roadway and interstate that we've never rebuilt before. So, there still may be some updates to, the signage and our other efforts here as we move forward with the project.
I want to talk a little bit about that enforcement. What kind of fines are truckers facing if they are cited for entering this zone? And how much of an effect have the fines had in terms of reducing the truck traffic in that area?
I can not speak too much to the enforcement arm of it, since we don't have that, but our law enforcement partners are taking care of that. But from what I understand, it's a $500 fine. That amount is set by the district attorney's office. That can be changed or adjusted by the Bossier Parish District Attorney's Office. And again, they're not issued a citation every time. Sometimes it's a warning, depending on, what that discourse is that they have with the law enforcement officer, and what, kind of the conversation that they have, and the judgment of the law enforcement personnel that's out there. Our state police, who are the agency that's basically tasked with regulating commercial trucking in Louisiana, they're very experienced in, communicating and regulating our commercial trucking community. But it has improved as far as the number of trucks and the number of incidents that we've had. Like I said, we really see an uptick when there's inclement weather, and when that the ground next to the pavement, because it's so narrow that, if one little tire gets off the edge of that pavement, typically wouldn't be such a big deal. But in this instance, it is, and it usually means that the driver is unable to recover the vehicle and get back to the roadway, and it usually ends up with a roadway departure crash. So, but the enforcement arm of this has been effective thus far. But again, like I said, this is a fluid situation. We may make changes to signage. We'll continue to issue information about the project and continue to push that communication, just so, we don't want to have to issue citations. It's not, something that we're celebrating per se, because, it's not fun for anybody. No one wants to get a $500 ticket. This is requiring additional resources from law enforcement that could be used elsewhere. However, at the end of the day, we're really trying to ensure that we've got a safe and successful construction project that is staying on track. We've got actual human beings that are working out there on this project that are just trying to make it home safely at the end of the day. And that's really what we're trying to do, is maintain, a level of safety for motorists, for the truckers, and for our construction crews that are out there.
You mentioned the 220 loop highway in that area
Mm-hmm.
as an alternate route. And just for people that maybe have not been there, but may be passing through that area, I looked at a map. It doesn't look like that takes you very far out of your way at
Right.
all. So
Yes.
this is a good alternative in this
It
case.
is a very good, and again, that's why we're fortunate to have it. Even if you were to take the entire loop, which there's an extension to I-220 as well, via one of our state highways, you're not out of the way by more than 15 or 20 minutes. And in the grand scheme, there are some detours that are extremely lengthy and other places where you're out an hour or more. So we are very fortunate to have a interstate level loop that can handle the level of traffic that I-20 typically handles, and utilize that as a feasible detour. If we did not have that, we'd really be facing a very complicated scenario. But fortunately, we do have that loop, and it does not take someone who's having to detour out of the way particularly far. It's got multiple interchanges along that loop that if you were to need to exit and, take a surface street to get to your destination, you can do so with, somewhat minimal impact to your time. So we are, again, fortunate to have I-220 available to us.
So looking at the project overall, do you have an estimated completion date for the work on I-20 at this point?
We do. We're looking at late 2025, so late next year for an overall completion. We're in, again, phase 2. Phase 3 kind of looks a lot like phase 2. Once we get the inside lanes built, we'll shift traffic over to those and demolish and rebuild the outside lanes, as well as all of the on and off ramps at each of the interchanges that are inside that rehabilitation zone. So, we're looking at probably another 9 months or so on phase 2, and then we'll shift over to phase 3 and continue work there.
Does it appear that the truck restrictions will need to stay in place throughout the scope of the project?
At this time, probably, although, once we get the new pavement in place, we may be able to widen out the width of some of the lanes for phase 3. And so it may not necessarily be required for all of phase 3. Again, it would be great to not have to worry about that for everybody. We know they're just trying to do a job too. And we certainly recognize that and appreciate that. So hopefully, as we transition and get some of the new pavement down and the new roadway built, we can widen out some of that lane for phase 3 and not have to, have as much of a restriction in place. But, at this time, it'll stay in place at least for the duration of phase 2.
Okay. Erin, thank you very much for all the information. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out. We appreciate it.